right, let's see. Talk, I think. There we go. My push to talk is going. Get a chance for everyone to join in here. And all right, do ask if you are joining and you haven't done so. Make sure you have your push to talk on.
What?
All right, just make sure. You should be able to see in the Discord my desktop. Verify with me and put it into the chat and just do it in. We'll do it in Ask a DM. So we won't spam up the. Can see people lighting up, but I cannot hear you. Let me see mine.
Can you hear me? Testing.
Yep, I hear you now. I had to turn it on so I could hear you.
So are you going to post the stream and you said ask a DM?
Yes, I'll post all that here and Ask a DM.
All right, sweet.
All right, Chris, I just do need to make sure you put your push to talk on, Chris. Muting works as well too. All right, so I guess this is going to be all who's going to join us. So welcome to a quick little briefing of Adventures League. Kind of like a Q&A real quick for players that have never played it before and are curious. I have a video on either Twitch or on Discord.
Yeah, I think I'm getting a lot of background noise from Chris G. I think.
There we go, I muted him. You are now muted, Chris.
Also, I noticed that the Twitch I guess has our volume as well, so it kind of like stereos it. So I muted that as well. I don't know if that would help.
All right, so real quick, I have 2 Dungeon Masters in here, and the rest of players. Have either of you been a DM for Adventures League? That's for Morg and Simon. Yep. Last one. All right, well, I'm just going to continue on. So basically, the Adventures League is a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. We are currently in season 9. Every season is a new when a new major book comes out or adventure that becomes every year. The So season 9 is all about Avernus. All the adventures, the 12 adventures that are in it, all based around that campaign. So to play Adventures League, you basically need the basics you need. That's your player's handbook. Have the basic free rules online, or you have the actual player's handbook. Is either fine as okay. Now with Adventures League, you have a rule called PHB +1. So with the basically you use player's handbook plus 1 additional book, and for this season, you're allowed to use the books that they listed here. Really boils down to is, let's say you want to make a class or a race, and you want to, okay, I want to make a druid, but then I want to use some of the spells from Sword Coast or something like that, and then you pull from Xanthars as well for the subclass. You can't do that. So you really got to make a decision. And most people that I know of choose Xanthars just because of all the extra stuff you get in the spells as their +1. Now for the in-store events and everything, no one's going to be sitting there at the door checking to make sure you physically have a copy of the book, because myself, I have everything in D&D and Beyond. It's all digital copies. You don't have to bring these books with you. So everyone starts off at level 1. Kind of built on a trust system, in that you play correctly, meaning that you don't go home and just make a level 3 and be like, yeah, I did all this and I got to level 3. Each tier there's tiers 1 through 4, and they have a level bracket. And once your character passes the level bracket, you can't, you move on to level tier number 2, you can't go back to tier 1 and play those with that character. So you're really best starting off at level 1. Now on page 13 of the handbook, there's ability scores. And it gives you 3 different ways to make characters, but in Adventures League you only use 2. And that's your standard array points, or you can do your 27 point buy. There's some good calculators and stuff. You can just Google D&D point buy calculator, and but basically you're not doing the dice rolling, where it used to be like back in the day you would roll d6s, drop the lowest, and keep them. And creating your character, as far as everything else, the background, alignment, there is basically, you can alignment but evil. It's assuming that all the characters in the heroes are all good characters, and all the evil characters are either NPCs or monsters. Go up at an event and you have an evil character, you're going to have to be an NPC and roll. Deities, that's pretty simple. It's from the player's handbook. Equipment in itself, you don't do the buy. You do the starting equipment, which each class and race, it tells you what you start with for your equipment. Then when you choose your background, you might get some more equipment. Oh, which the trinkets are just fun little role-playing things. Let me pull that up real quick. Starting on page 160. And as you can see here, you can roll for them, which is kind of fun. Sometimes you can't decide on one, or you can just. A lot of these are just simply roll fun things to have on your character. Start with a trinket, and you can tie your trinket in, with a little bit of your backstory into your character of how you got this trinket or what it means to you. Now, faction, select a faction is an optional rule. I suggest everyone who makes a character to pick a faction. It's best explanation is just to Google factions, and there's the Harpers, there's several others to choose from. The nice thing about choosing a faction is there is some adventures where you'll be talking to an NPC and it says if you have a party member that's part of the gauntlet, they'll give this person an extra item or give them an extra piece of. Also, in turn, it could be that they don't like the gauntlet and they don't want to give you information. More so than most, I have seen it where it gives people extra stuff if they're in a certain faction. So in Adventures League, it's going to be a little bit different in the sense that your homebrew games, you go and you find this huge treasure and everything, you walk away with 1,000 gold pieces. Not so much in Adventures League. Adventures League, you're not going to get a whole lot of gold. You're not going to get a whole lot of magic items. So it becomes, I don't know, to me it becomes more valuable for the players to keep a hold of gold and find it. But you can buy potions of healing, you can buy scrolls, and you can also buy things like a resurrection. Actually the Adventures League Players Guide we're looking at, so it's not listed in. Yeah, some of the seasons they have certain NPCs that you can get protection or healing spells from to get them to cast healing on you. Now, downtime activities, it's an optional thing that a lot of DMs either do or don't do. Bruce, there's different things you can do between your adventures, and it could be something as far as like, I want to take up some orders for blacksmithing and make a little bit extra gold, or that I want to go and commit a crime. There's different charts and stuff you can roll on. Happens to your character during those times. And those things typically, unless you're playing with the same DM all the time, are kind of done on your own, or you say, hey, I want to do this. Would you mind, DM, coming over here and doing this with me? Now, character advancement. So when you're killing monsters and you're doing quests, you don't really get the XP for the monsters. It's all based upon your session. Now, each made in Season 9, you basically, for your sessions, you get a level. Or it's 4 hours of play. And it's a fixed hit point value that you get. So in your book, when you're looking at your classes and stuff, it'll say for a fighter you get, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, D12 plus this for your bonus, and roll. You don't roll, you just take the average number that's given. J. Cole, I think you have a hot mic. If you could turn your mic either on mute or out, please. Now in Season 9, they did introduce a new thing, which is a gold pieces limit per level. not season 8 they introduced it to, but basically your character in tier 1 can only have a max amount of gold, which is 80 gold. To be, I know in season 7 that you would earn points, and your points would give you to buy magic items from certain magic charts and stuff like that. And they did away with all that confusion. Now, if you are in an adventure, it's important to know that you can stop your progression. You can decline advancement at the end of an adventure, or when the DM says everyone levels up, you can decide not to level up. Now, that's not putting your character on hold until I want to do one more adventure before I level up. That it doesn't mean that you get to like hold off your level. It just means that I am not going to level up, and I'm going to have to play a different section before I can level up. This one is really for new people that's never played before. Experienced players kind of know what they want to play, but as long as your character is level 5, has not hit level 5, usually you get a free resurrection, and also you get a chance to re-roll your character. And also, it's important to know that important to know that if you do fall in combat, you fall unconscious, you fail your death saves, do not leave the table, because if the rest of the party survives, it's assumed that the party drags your body to safety, and then you can get yourself a resurrection, whether it's through the temple or through another player. Now there is some things here about season 9 specifically, because it does deal with Avernus being going to the first how you look at it, the first or the last level of all the hells, and you get some extra traits here, and these traits are specific for season 9. And they just, all 3 of them are kind of, some have some advantages, some are more for role playing. But you can choose whichever one you want. And I'm sorry if I keep breaking up my mic and cutting my mic off. I have kids and dogs in the background, so I'm trying to keep the background noise down. All right, so real quick, we're gonna pause right here. If there's any questions about making characters and what the rules are for making your characters, please put it in the Ask a DM channel. All right, the question is from Hugh Garten. Are we required to have DCI numbers to have a character? No. They did away with DCI numbers. Last year's. Yeah, mine's somewhere too. The only time I needed a DCI number really was when I played and DM'd an official event, and that's when they wanted my DCI number. Locally, no one really cared what your DCI number was. I just did away with it. Okay, adventure logs. So there's no other questions. I'll go ahead and move on to that. The question is, how about adventure logs for characters? James? All right, the adventure log sheet has also changed from previous seasons, and again, is more based on the trust system, and you feel not just like you would your character name, your race levels, and your starting goals, starting downtime, and so forth. I can sit here and explain each thing and kind of fill it out, but it's easier once you need to fill it out to actually sit down and look. Okay, this makes sense now. But you basically have an adventure log sheet, and the adventure log sheet is basically a listing of what your character has done in the world, and kind of like a log to say, here's how I got to level 3, here's how I got to level 5. Again, this is character logs for the players. And it did away, see, adventure code, adventure name, date. Here's where it used to say DCI number, but now it just says a dungeon master's name. That's just a record for you, really. If someone comes back and says, how did you get that awesome weapon +2? Well, Ellison gave it to me in this adventure right here. And you have proof, and they can, if it's not a legal item, they can come and approach me and be like, look, you can't be giving out this item. So it kind of keeps us in check too. So the rules with Adventures League, it's pretty much, I mean, it's not. So the deal with Adventures League is there's no homebrew, and there's no unearthed arcana allowed. And out of the room, go. Off. You're out of here. Go. Um, I am on a conference call. Okay, so I forgot where I was at now. Oh yeah, so the rules. There's no Earth Arcana. There's no home brewing. It's pretty much meant. Adventures League is meant for Joe to sit down and play with me, and be able to take his character and go sit at Bob's table, and be able to have the same rule system in place. Now, as DMs, we still have the some flexibility in there how the rules are perceived. The DMs do have their own choice, but they can't just be making up on their own rules. One of my personal favorite rules that I like to use is critical damage in my non-adventure league games is max damage ×2 plus your ability, and it's amazing to see a crit. But I can't use that in Adventures League. Awesome. Okay, so I have any questions so far? Yeah, I'm sorry my voice goes in and out. I have kids in the background and I just had to kick them off Fortnite and kick them out of the room. All right, for any of my players. Okay, so the question is, will there be mini games online, or this will be shift to Hard Knocks games later? Okay, so this server is for online or in-person games. You can play Adventures League anywhere, and that it doesn't necessarily have to be at the event or on the server. You can bring your character from anywhere you want. Now, this server is, and the E-Town community is, there'll be online games. There's going to be a monthly game in the store. Working with Hard Knocks to get everything set up. So like next month, there. And the idea of being in the store is that you'll show up and there'll be a table to kind of like check in and say, hey, I'm a player or a DM. Where do I need to go? And that there'll be 6, 7 games going at once. Jump into a game. Online, you go to the Adventures channel and you look for the game and you message the GM to sign up for the game. It's just you're specifically signing up for this one game. And you can use your online characters in the store as well. All are an easy crowd. Very few questions. Dungeon Master part. All right, so the thing is, I made a character to hopefully play Mondays. Do I send it to you to check, or just show up on Monday with it? You just show up with Monday, and unless the DM specifies, there's no specific place you have to store your character's information. I think me and you had talked about D&D Beyond. I do have a shared campaign in the character creation channel that you can join and make a character using D&D Beyond, and I have all the books for the most part unlocked on there. Everything you would need to make a character. You have to be careful that you don't stray from your PHB +1, because it is going to allow you to pull from whatever book I have shared. Yeah, and you can make that use your character once you get to the end and it says your character sheet and it's all interactive. Up by your character name, there's a drop down. Make sure you export that as a PDF, because without warning, I can go in there and clean up the character sheets to make room for other people to make character sheets. And just a note, there is not, excuse me, right now there is not public access at the store. And there's not public access internet at the stores, so don't expect to be able to show up to the store with your tablet or laptop and be able to access your D&D Beyond or other things. So make sure it works offline. Yeah, that works as well. Okay, for the DM part, players can stick around. There's no like spoilers or anything. So anyone can DM. If it's your first time DMing, feel free to take up the role as DM and come play. Best way to learn how to play is the Dungeon Master role basically you have to have the player's handbook or the basic rules, just like players. The adventures, I have access as a DM role. You have access to resources that I have that have been shared to me, or I've purchased myself to share with you all. And basically, it's the adventures themselves. So, if you want to DM, you say, "Hey, I want to DM." If you're at the event, I'm going to have printed off copies of Season 9 Adventures for you to grab one, read through it real quick, and go play it. Preferably, you would open it up yourself, print it off yourself, make your own notes, and show up ready to run that adventure. And if we could keep it organized and let me know in the DM chat channel that, hey, I am going to be running this adventure on this day, so I can make sure that 4 people don't show up to run the same adventure. Now, when you show up to be a DM, I try to keep the tables even, and that you will typically only have 4 people at your table. Once it gets really busy, I will not have you have more than 7 people at your table at a time. Now here in the DM guide for Adventures League, it shows you the costs of what it would cost for a player to raise the dead or have cure wounds cast on them and stuff. Depending on what season it is, who the NPC is that they would go to. The DM's guide is just 4 pages versus the other one was like 6. So this makes it really easy. Now, as a DM, when you run an adventure, you are not walking away with anything at all. As you DM, in the rewards document, it will say like you get so much gold for your own characters. You get a magic item for your own character. So at the same time you're DMing, you're not losing out on building your own character. Do I have any questions so far? All right, Dungeon Master Awards. Like I said, you earn gold, you earn stuff for your characters. So that way, when you're not DMing night and you want to play, you have characters and you're not starting off at level 1 with nothing. Reward cost, you can get chickens like an abyssal chicken. Familiar. And okay, so vehicles and mounts. The tricky one, because from what I have been told and from what I understand at this point, your infernal war machines and stuff like that only work if you are in Avernus. If you are back into Faerun or whatever land that those characters are from, that the vehicles don't exist. So in the DM's packet is the reward thing. You can read through it and pick through it and find rewards that you like as a DM. But for the most part, it says in the adventure, you know, you get this much gold, you get this much experience. All right, so the content catalog in the DM's packet is basically is going to be the content that is allowed to be ran for Ventures League, and it kind of tells if there's any modifications to the rules. A live document, you might want to, if you use this, you might want to add it to it, and it kind of explains to you what the different codes in front of the different things mean. Most of them that you will find are going to be DDAL 09 for Season 9, and 01, 02. Basically, it's just a standard adventure for Adventures League. See rated content. Some of that can be found on the DM's Guild. Don't know if I have. Let me check real quick. Yeah, I don't have any approved CCC content on the shared server right now for anyone to grab a hold of. You can create your own adventures and get them approved. There is a packet in the directory for that. Basically, you submit it. Once it gets approved, then it goes up for sale in the DM Guild, and anyone can run it for their Adventures League. Now, as a dungeon master, you have to make sure that there are certain things that you cannot use, or have been banned or can't be used. One of the things is the deck of many things, so we can't send anybody to put their spirits inside jewelry or anything like that, or dungeon, which is unfortunate. But one of the big things is like Curse of Strahd. The Sun Sword, any kind of item that is specific to the adventures, stay inside those adventures. So the Sun Sword from Curse of Strahd, you can't take it as your character. As long as you're in Curse of Strahd, playing Curse of Strahd, you can use that sword, but you can't take it over to any of the Season 9 Avernus ones and use the Sun Sword. Yep, very boo. Okay, so in Season 9, they're introducing Oracle of War. Now, Oracle of War, you basically are playing as a scavenger, and it is a separate, kind of like it's like you have the Adventure League quest, and then you have Oracle of War, and it's very different from that setting. I tell everyone, if it's your first time DMing, stick with the Adventures League content, because that's going to be your basic content. Then branch out into Oracle of War, special adventures, specifically for that campaign. And I have, I can hear real quick. Yes, I do. I only have episode 1, Iron Titan, and episode 4, the Third Protocol, as long as I have been able to obtain. You are more than welcome to grab those, look at those, and see what the difference is. I'm missing, basically right here, I'm missing Voice in the Machine and Words. But in this content log thing here, I pretty much have everything up to current shared on the server. So you don't go on, and if it's your first time DMing or you want to spend a lot of money, you don't have to. I just ask that the resources that you use off of the server are used for Adventures League. That's pretty much everything I have written down to go over. Is there any questions that any of you have? Whether it's about running something online, or if it's something about running something in the store. A question that came up in my mind was just so you know, you don't have to run Adventures League adventures on a certain platform. You can run them on Discord or Fantasy Grounds or Roll20. It don't matter. I'll be running for Fantasy Grounds and Discord. The only thing I say about people who are running on Fantasy Grounds Unity, their new one, their beta, I've been seeing a lot of people having problems connecting to people's games, like DM's games. So be prepared to screen share on Discord or something. Also, in-game store events, you're not required to run the adventure with a certain. You don't have to have minis. You don't have to have anything specific. You can run it totally theater of mind if you want to. Do your own DM style for that. I don't know what LJ is. I live in LJ. Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of these will be online. You know, in the Dungeon Masters, you can run other events at this or other adventures at the stores. Just the official event is once a month. Well, you know, if you have any questions, you know, shoot me a message. Start seeing posters up in the store. Have non-AL campaigns in your Discord. I would prefer to keep this specific server Adventures League only right now. Question is, are there plans for non-Adventure League or homebrew anytime soon? Adventures League is okay, just hard to get behind a character that is so limiting. So you can run non-AL games all you want. This server is for, and events itself are for Adventures League. I personally run a 2D&D games self in person here. Oh, one at the store and one at the house. But I keep that information in that server separate from the Adventures League. And if you are playing, if you want to run, let's say you want to run your own homebrew on Wednesday nights at the store or at your house or wherever, and you meet someone at Adventures League, you can tell that person, hey, come play this game with me as well. It's okay. I'd rather keep the announcements and stuff Adventures League on here. That's a dilemma as far as all. The comment was just hard to find games or games where the schedules all sync up. It is. It is hard. Yes, especially if you work on the weekends, it is hard. Um, for you, I would suggest also there's Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds, and you can search for games on there as well. But if there's no more questions for the Adventures League stuff, I'm going to go ahead and end my stream. Welcome. And if, like I said, there's any questions or anything, just either message me or post it in the thing. As time gets closer, I'll start posting more information, especially for you DMs, kind of figure out what your plans are. I will talk to you later.